Go. All right, we'll go ahead and call the March 5th meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order. Can we have the roll, please?
Chairman Lane.
Here.
Commissioner O'Day.
Here.
Commissioner Haberman.
Here.
Commissioner Tarrick.
Here.
Commissioner Jacoby.
Here.
Commissioner Barnard.
Here.
Councilmember Marsing.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. First order of business is to approve the February 5th meeting minutes. Do any commissioners have any comments or corrections on those? And if not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay. All right, so I have a motion to approve the minutes from Commissioner Tarrick and a second from Commissioner Jacoby. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Next is report from the chair, and in this particular case, I do not have anything. Well, okay, I changed my mind. So, out of the preservation conference a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of talk about trades and the kind of the dearth of preservation trades, and we talked a little bit about that in the retreat. And so I have actually started a conversation with someone, one of my contacts that's associated with the community college locally, and just talking through what might some kind of program look like. Not necessarily a full bore curriculum, but even a short couple week session that might be focused on preservation trades. The local community college does not have a carpentry or preservation trade or construction trade kind of program. There are a couple in Colorado, but there is potentially an opportunity to even open up a program, a limited program that maybe students could jump onto and see if there's interest, right? So a tiny little building block. So I'm offering that as a tiny little building block, which is where these things start. So that's a good thing. All right, that's all I have to note. Okay. Next on the agenda would be communication from HBC staff, primarily retreat follow-up, and anything else you've got going on?
I have a few things.
Okay,
So first and foremost, retreat minutes will be provided for the April meeting packet. Maria is still working on those. And then other retreat follow-up I did per the commission's request include with the this packet. There are copies of the Eastside Historic District nomination package for National Register District, the Downtown National Register nomination, and the West Side nomination package. So they were all submitted at varying points in time. But those three nomination packages are included with your packet, so you have them for reference in the future. Other items I have that Melanie and I have been working behind the scenes on the grant application. We are thinking it's likely that this letter of intent's been submitted. I'm working behind the scenes with all of our various folks who work on these things as well. It's likely we're thinking that the Kensington Cannery East might qualify for the changing the narrative status in the application, given the neighborhood's strong association with the Latino community. We did start discussing the potential for adding the Unity art piece in the Kensington Park to the state register with Art and Public Places staff. There's still there's just some discussions that still need to happen in terms of fully understanding what that involves and what that means. But we have brought that up, so that has come up. So at the conference, and I think that we touched on this at the retreat, Damian Pachata from History Colorado, he approached us about the possibility of adding that particular art piece to the state register. It's not quite 30 years old yet, but he indicated that things could happen. It's like there could be some creative approaches, we'll just say. So we're having those conversations. Looking at doing the Tower of Compassion dedication sometime in May, currently working to determine scheduling possibilities. Makes sense to do that in May in conjunction with Historic Preservation Month, so that could be a nice event that happens there. We've had no new applications requiring commission approval for certificate of appropriateness. We did review one application for re-roofing a garage. We anticipate a couple of COA applications in the near future. We do have one tax credit application that has been submitted that we are in the process of reviewing and determining if it needs to come to the full commission or if it's something that we can handle administratively. Stay tuned on that. And we also did I did a Section 106 review for a project at 287 Oligarchy Ditch, 21st Street. There's some road and drainage improvements going on there. There were no concerns of note cited in the documentation they presented. So, but they do forward, CDOT does forward those just to give us, for us to have a look-see and make sure that we're fine with that as well. So April meeting, I do have our council, Jeremy Terrell, scheduled to come to the April meeting to discuss the demolition ordinance and just kind of give everyone either A, a refresher, or B, a tutorial on it, since we do have some new commissioners, actually quite a few new commissioners since that ordinance was adopted a few years back. So got a few things lined up, and we've been hard at work.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for staff? No? All right. Appreciate that thorough update.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we have public invited to be heard. Is there anybody in the audience that is here not on an agenda item? Seeing none, I will go ahead and close the public invited to be heard, and we will move on to the meat of this evening's information, which is a public hearing on 800 Emery Street. I assume we've got a staff report for that.
That is correct. All right. So we're here to discuss we have a public hearing this evening concerning a requested certificate of appropriateness for two items at 800 Emery Street, a porch addition as well as construction of a new accessory dwelling unit that would be over a ground floor garage. So just in terms of orientation, this property is located at the northeast corner of Emery Street and 8th Avenue. It's an interesting property in that it's addressed, it's a corner lot, it's addressed off of Emery Street. It does have access points from both the Emery and the 8th Avenue entrance. It is also rather large lot and has some peculiarities with where the property line is located that I'll get into momentarily. So this is it's a version of an Italianate home. It's a fairly simple interpretation of the Italianate style. It was originally built in 1889. It originally had a full width front porch on the 8th Avenue frontage, or the 8th Avenue facade. I have not been able to locate any photographs. Neither me nor Melanie were able to locate any photographs of that original porch. However, it's indicated there is some anecdotal evidence of it from both, documentation in various articles and such. The applicant, Corca Donaran, will discuss it a little bit more, but there's some textural differences in the brick on that 8th Avenue side that indicate that there probably was a a porch there as well. Additionally, porches are a pretty common feature of this style of home. There definitely was once a detached garage on the property that was demolished at probably in the 70s-ish, late 70s, pretty certain. There were two significant remodelings of the property. There was a large addition on the north part of the house in the early 60s that added some square footage. It's kind of a block construction, so definitely not consistent with the historic style of the home. In the late 1970s to 1979, this property, much like many properties in the historic East Side, as well as our historic districts around the country, was converted to a commercial use. In the infinite wisdom of the planners of the day, they required off-street parking, so that original detached garage was demolished to make way for a surface parking lot. And you can see that in terms of that very large concrete drive that exists today. It was designated a historic landmark in 1980. So first I'm going to discuss the porch addition. I'm going to note that the homeowner, Mr. Honoron, who's also the applicant and architect, will discuss the designs in more detail momentarily. So the porch would span the 8th Avenue facade of the home. As I mentioned, there is evidence that there once was a porch at this location. And so we have not been able to locate photographs. Oddly, this is also one of the few properties in the neighborhood that does not have a detailed cultural resources survey. There is a OAHP document that we were able to find, but it doesn't go into the same level of detail that the later surveys did. So I do know there are still a couple gaps here, some gaps here and there on the East Side surveys, even though the vast majority of the neighborhood has been surveyed. So in terms of the certificate of appropriateness criteria, you will see, I will state that this is a full width porch. It is a hipped roof. It does have some fairly simple railings, etc. Currently, the home has, and this was one of those, we'll call it strange things that was done at varying points in time to homes. It's hard to see, but you can see on the 8th Avenue side where there would have once been a porch, there was this interesting kind of Federalist colonial feature put on top of that particular door. So it doesn't quite fit the style of the house, which is a nice way of saying it. I have not talked about the shutters, but I will let you guys talk about the shutters. I will let you talk about the shutters. So, yeah, there have been definitely some interesting things done to the property over the years that the applicant is looking to revise. So, in terms of the review criteria, so the proposed porch, staff does feel it is appropriate in scale and style to the existing home, but it is also sufficiently differentiated from the historic elements of the property. Generally Italianate style porches on more ornate, Italianate homes tended to also be generally ornate. But this particular property, as I noted, is a more simple interpretation of the Italianate style, and a less ornate porch is seem appropriate in this case. Additionally, there was the preserves, enhances, or restores and doesn't damage exterior features. This would be restoration or reconstruction, really, of a porch that originally existed. The porch was not removed during the period of significance for this property as well. In the staff report, I do include some discussion about the historic East Side National Register District, and while this property is not actually located within that district, it is fairly close to it, and we can make some derivation, and we can make some assumptions or some interpretations based on the period of significance identified for the National Register District. And so the changes to this particular property that have been done over the years do not fall within that period of significance and would not have acquired historic significance in their own right. So it does not, it does restore that original feature or reconstruct an original feature of the house. It's compatible with the characteristics of the home. It's, the hipped roof style corresponds to the hipped roof of the primary structure. And as I noted previously, there is textural evidence on the brick, if you look closely, that you can kind of see where a porch probably once was based on some of the texture changes. And as I noted, the style is appropriate to the more simple interpretation of the Italianate style for this particular property. So we are of the opinion, staff is of the opinion, that the proposed porch addition does meet the criteria for certificate of appropriateness. So now I'm going to talk separately about the garage and accessory dwelling unit. So it is the proposed garage, it would be 2 stories. It is proposed for location where this very large concrete slab is. So it would essentially fill that void that was left by demolition of the garage in the late 70s. So in terms of location, so there's the location. I'm going to talk a little about some of the zoning characteristics as well. This particular image does indicate where the property line is. And so typically property lines tend to go to the back of the sidewalk. This one, interestingly, is like 20 feet away from the back of the sidewalk, which definitely presents some peculiarities to the site. But so the proposed design is kind of essentially a farmhouse type, more of a simple design. The color scheme would be in keeping with, would be similar to the existing home. There's a proposed, repainting of the existing home in conjunction with construction with this project. So here's the side-by-side. I did reference, this is that, we'll call it non-historic addition that was done sometime in the 70s. That's currently very visible from the 8th Avenue frontage. The orientation of the proposed garage and accessory dwelling unit would essentially obscure this non-historic block addition from the 60s. So the design, so the size is really subordinate to the home. It's clear that this is an accessory property. It is, while it is 2-story, it is not quite as tall as the existing structure as well, and the eave would go slightly lower than what you would see on the 2nd-story elevation. So in terms of the zoning considerations, so this is a corner lot. So in the zoning world, we at least in the city of Longmont and commonly in other cities, corner lots are deemed to have 2 front yards, which means that they are subject to the front yard setback on 2 sides of the property, which in the residential single-family zoning district of the east side is 20 feet. Setbacks are measured from the property line, as I indicated, and this particular site is unusual because the property line is 21 feet from the sidewalk rather than adjacent to the sidewalk, which functionally results in, a 40-foot setback, frankly. So accessory dwelling units, as we showed on the site plan, the proposed garage and accessory dwelling unit would sit slightly closer to the right-of-way than the principal structure. But in terms of scale, this is the location of the proposed front porch addition. So the new structure would not be substantially in front of the building with the new front porch addition. So just pointing that out. So accessory dwelling units may be located closer to the property line than the principal structure on corner lots if setbacks are met. Additionally, uncovered balconies may encroach into required setbacks by up to 6 feet. So there is this balcony that would extend in front of the structure a little bit as well, but it does meet that uncovered balcony requirement. So an administrative modification is essentially an administrative level type of variance that can be granted by planning to reduce the required setbacks by up to 25%. So in this case, that would be 15 feet instead of 20 feet. This particular modification was granted by staff to reduce the setback by 25% to 15 feet. I'll also note that I did note in the report as well some of the requirements of the new state statutes that do require that we permit accessory dwelling units wherever single-family homes are permitted. Longmont has long had that allowance, so this is not anything new to Longmont. So I've talked a little bit about the zoning. So zoning has already reviewed the footprint of this. So our planning, our current planning development review side is fine with this reduction in the front yard. So then we get into the review criteria for the garage and accessory dwelling unit. I'm discussing this separately because they are such different components to this home project. So as I noted, HB 241152 does require that we permit ADUs where single families dwelling units are permitted, although historic design standards and criteria may be applied. So as with all of our other certificates of appropriateness, the Secretary of Interior standards apply. Staff is of the opinion that these standards have been met. In particular, Standard 9 provides that new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Standard 10 provides that new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. So in particular, those two criteria seemed quite applicable to this particular property. And as well, the proposed garage appears to be located approximately where there was once a detached garage. So with regard to criteria 2, the proposed work preserves, enhances, or restores and does not damage or destroy the exterior architectural features of the designated property. As noted, there was previously a detached garage existing on site. It was probably in a similar location to the proposed building. Do not have any photographic documentation of what that would have looked like. This new building is differentiated from the historic home, but the massing and features are compatible to the property as well as the surrounding area. So the third criteria we have to consider is whether the proposed work adversely affects the special character or special historical, architectural, or aesthetic interest or value of the landmark and its site in the district. Again, I kind of keep saying this. There once was a garage here, so it's essentially filling this particular proposed structure would fill a void that was left when that garage was demolished for what was then required off-street parking, and the applicant is proposing, I should say, complementary materials, colors, and scale to the existing home. And finally, in terms of whether the architectural style and materials are compatible with the existing character of the home, of the landmark, and the site in the district. Noted this is a different style in the historic home. It's kind of a farmhousey type of style. But again, it's subordinate in size, which you would expect for an accessory dwelling, a two-story accessory dwelling unit. And it would obscure that non-historic home addition, and which is probably not a bad thing. And it would also fill that void on the block that was left when the original garage was demolished. So staff does recommend that the commission approve both the porch addition and the new garage with the accessory dwelling unit. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Honoron, who will present some more details about the property and the project. Do you want to do your slides first or your fly through first?
Slide through.
Okay. Has to think for a second here. All right, there we go.
Thank you, Jennifer.
There There you go.
Okay. Thank you for your time and thank you for being here. Oh, it disappeared. Huh. Let's see if it's going to. Okay, good. My wife Jennifer Frank and I bought the property on 2014. We wanted to do an ADU and garage and add the porch back then, but we spent a lot of money for fixing up the house, more than what we appreciated. So we needed to wait up to this point. The original house, like Jennifer mentioned, are two simple rectangles. It's load-bearing. It's a rare one. And there was an addition, pre-thinking that 20s, to the north. And that's just a one-room addition. It's also brick. And there is a different kind of ornamentation. It's almost like a shop front. Main Street shop front. And the openings, we don't know what kind of openings they were because they were altered significantly. And then in 60s or 70s, there was one more addition. That's a cinder block, very simple construction, and it doesn't really follow the character of the main house. You can see the large concrete pad. And at one point, probably, in these kind of load-bearing structures, porch structure is not part of the structure. It's an addition. And if you don't really seal well, it rots really easily. Water gets there, and then wood construction. And that's probably what happened, and then they got rid of it. That was their solution. And off the shelf, they found this Federalist pediment, and they put it there. So we would like to put the porch back, take that out, and also put the ancillary unit over two-car garage, two separate side-by-side garages. That must by fly-through. Now, I have, this just occurred to me later, just yesterday I put together one more slide that is not in your package, and I'd like to share that very quickly. And let me get that. And that's about what's around. Let me. So, on the top right, you're seeing our neighbor, 318 8th Street. Across the street, south of us, you're seeing, this is lower right, the 746 Emery Street. Kitty corner, southwest, we have the 739 Emery. It's a dentist jack down, and next to it you're seeing a single story, again, kind of like a folk Victorian. And then up you're seeing what we have to the west. It's kind of like a single story craftsman, and then followed another small bungalow, and then you have more folk Victorian. So all these are wood constructions, and simple, kind of modest, and that's why for us repeating the style Italianate would be a mistake, because it's a very rare structure. And like many Italianates, and kind of four squares are like that, very complete facade. So it's really hard to add anything. And, what we're thinking is that this farm style addition really goes with what's going on around and really highlights the Hartman house as a jewel. It's unusual. Well, there are only two Italianates, as far as I know, in this, the East Side neighborhood. ours and another one on Collier, that's changed a lot. And, load-bearing brick is also something rare, and this kind of setback is rare. So everything about this is unique, and that's why we're thinking that, we really need to highlight the structure by putting our new addition goes with the neighborhood. That really fits to the neighborhood and highlights the structure. That's about it for me. And if you have questions, I can answer.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thanks for that. And I really do appreciate that last slide and explanation, because I was going to ask for that explanation. So I do appreciate that. Commissioners, questions for staff or for the applicant? Okay, Commissioner Jacoby.
I guess this is a question. It's also a comment. That last picture shows the diversity of the East Side neighborhood, which in spades, and that's the whole neighborhood is like that. But I'm still questioning. That the guidelines here are supposed to have compatible architectural features, yada yada, and this ADU is so close to your house. I was wondering, because when I looked at the drawing that you submitted of the proposed ADU, I thought that's nice, but why a shed roof? Why not extend the roof horizontally and then put the pitch similar to what's on the main house? And the same on the main gable. If you just widen the pitch a little bit more, it would match your house more. Now that would maybe not be a farmhouse style per se, but it would complement your house. And when it's so close to your house, then that would probably, I would think it would match more. And then that would make me feel more comfortable about compatible architectural features, because it's a beautiful addition the way you've drawn it, or ADU the way you've drawn it, but it doesn't have a lot of similarities to the main house, it seems like to me. Yeah, that's a great picture there. If you change the roof pitch on the above the porch on the ADU, so it's just a little flatter, or even if you kept that, but extended instead of a shed roof on the left side of the ADU, if you extended a horizontal ridge and then went down at the same pitch, that would mirror the house much more, and I think it would make it seem more cohesive. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, two thoughts. Oh, thank you. The scale is very important. I mean, we tried different massing, and interestingly enough, the main house is a very modest building, kind of low, not too big. Anything that makes it 20 feet wide starts competing with it. That was the one, and especially the roof shape. What we tried to do is to lower the plate height towards west, so that what you're seeing in terms of the height is significantly lower than the main building. And farmhouse allows you to do that. The other important thing that we're doing is that what we're providing is really like a 14 feet, the drawing doesn't make justice. It's really small. What you're giving to the street is so small that you pass that and then you see the main house kind of feels, that scale, making it that small, makes the main house looks bigger, more presentable. And in terms of the style, that's why, I sat down and did this one, because actually building to building distances are very similar. We're not that close to the main house. Lots actually gives you, like 6 feet setback, right? And there are a lot of those kind of things. So in a way, our hope is that it's going to look like part of the neighborhood. It's not going to be part of the house. And in this particular case, even though, it's an ADU, it made sense to us because, A, you need a building presence there. It's just a heat island, just big concrete. Right. And you need it to come to the street so that, it's more walkable. Because if we put it way up back, it's already, 18 feet setback plus 21. It's already close to 40, even though we had the variance and everything. It's still out there. But that, to us, felt like it's the right thing to do, to really provide something much more modest. And there's a tradition there as well. That is, especially in, late 1800s, you have the main house, and secondary structures are usually a different style and much more modest. So, there's that precedent as well in terms of the history. And I'm sure that garage that existed there was not Italianate style. So in any way, we're doing an improvement, in my opinion. Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Tarek.
Hi. Well, I do agree with Rick, and there are a couple things I want to echo that he said and then add on to what he said. So, in looking at the criteria, we're looking at the architectural style, arrangement, texture, and materials are compatible with the main house. And like Rick said, between the main house and the ADU, that architectural style is not compatible. And I think he brought up some good points about, changing the roof line, maybe making the windows, the size and the profile match the house. Those kinds of things I think would be very important, because even though you're looking at the neighborhood, we're looking at your property. And this ADU is part of the property, and that compatibility, I think, is very important. I do like your design for the porch. And so the first thing that came to my mind is that idea of the porch, if you took that and echoed that in the ADU. So like the wood panels on, between the porch posts, if you could do something like that. And then, I think there are a lot of things you can do, but I think, for me at least, as a commissioner on this board, is that we really do need the house and the ADU to have that carryover architectural style. It doesn't have to be brick, okay? But it has to have, I think, those elements of the Italianate. I understand what you're saying about it's subordinate in size, and that, you're not demolishing anything to build the ADU. But I think when we're talking about this idea of preservation, we need to go beyond that. And that idea of using the same architectural style, materials where appropriate, I think is really important. The second point is, I did like the pictures that you showed of the other houses, which I think is less of a concern because we're looking at your property. And still looking at this ADU, I still don't really see that much compatible with the ADU and some of those other houses in your neighborhood. I wouldn't really call this farmhouse style. I think the garages being so prominent is, I think, a little concerning, but I think that is secondary. For me, the primary thing is that the architecture is compatible with the main house, with that Italianate style. And I do think that, I'm not asking that everything be redone, but I think there are certain things that you can carry over, like what Rick said, and then, the porch, taking, those wood frames, carrying them over, the roof line, you see like you have the windows with the little lintels over it. If you could do, a profile like that, and then have some sort of lintel over it, that would then carry over that Italianate style as well.
Yeah. Well, if a set of rules would cover this process, there wouldn't be any need for this commission. This commission is here to use judgment and really understand unique cases, and you have expertise to make that kind of judgment. And that's kind of what I am really depending on. I know that the style it's not matching, but my argument is that anything that matches Italianate is going to look very fake and weird. Because, like I said, it's a very unique style. And unless you follow certain, the hip roof is a very important characteristics of the style, and follow certain other elements, it's what I'm trying to say is that it would be a mistake to try to follow that particular rule that you just mentioned. I read that rule and then I thought about it a lot, because in this particular case, the spacing, it's a detached. I wish I had the whole, I wish I had the whole block face. I started to concern more about this building fitting this particular location and improving the experience of that street. That is much more important, because if we really follow that rule by rule and I start carrying some of the details, first of all, it's not going to be really Italianate, because, let me back up a little bit. If I was to do a full Italianate, that building would start competing in scale as well as the character with the existing structure. That is my concern. And it would look like, well, wow, this is kind of like fake looking. That's also a concern. But when you go to the farmhouse style, it's so true to itself. There's not fake there. And not following the details, you can change the column detail, you can add the knee wall there, you can change the window styles and such, and then if you start putting the arches, which is a brick real arch, those are real arches, to these windows, it will start looking very contrived, let me put it that way. So that's my professional expertise opinion, and I really depend on your expertise to make this judgment. Thanks.
All right. Commissioner O'Day.
Am I on? So I swore I wasn't going to talk this time because I'm not an Italianate person, so it's not an area of expertise. But I have to say I kind of disagree. I think the whole neighborhood, the whole history of that neighborhood is very eclectic. And I think if you look through the entire east side, it's all sorts of things. And I personally can see your point. If you're trying to do a fake Italianate that ends up being bigger or looking bigger or newer than your existing structure, you're trying to highlight this building, not take away from it. And I appreciate that. And I think if you're, I don't know about the necessities for interior, like how much space you need and that sort of thing. But so I'm assuming that's some of the height of the roof and that sort of thing. But I can see where that would get, so it was really competing. I think you've done a nice job. You've already got a 1960s block thing that you're kind of hiding. So it's, again, the structure is pretty eclectic. The entire lot's pretty eclectic. So, the only thing that I can say that I would put in is like maybe the roof needs to be lighter colored, which sounds dumb, but that's the only thing that sticks out to me is it's a little darker, and so it does kind of pop out a little bit more.
Okay.
But that may be drawings too. I don't know what this would actually look like in person, but that's the only thing that stuck out to me. But I have to say, I kind of like the contrast a little bit.
Thank you. I think it's probably worth me chiming in here because I want to make sure that we understand what our tasks are and our guidelines. And this is where understanding what the Secretary of Interior standards really say is critically important. And so when we talk about compatibility, right, that does not mean the same style, right? And so I've actually pulled up one of the tech briefs, because I've referred to this myself in the past, and this is from the Secretary of Interior Standards website, and it's talking about additions, because it doesn't really talk about separate structures, but it's one of the lines is that to preserve a property's historic character, a new addition must be visually distinguishable from the historic building. The program regulations caution that exterior additions that duplicate the form, material, and detailing of the structure to the extent that they compromise the historic character will result in denial of certification. So it doesn't say that it has to be glaringly different, but it also says that it may not be a copy. And so, and I think that's what, I mean, we've had people come in here that want to put additions on their house, and they copy every single detail perfectly so that you can't distinguish what was historic and what was not, and we've denied them because that's not the right way to go. It's specifically disallowed. And there's a lot of other information in here, but it's really important to understand that, I mean, this addition could be an uber modern concept, and it would not, in and of itself, be incompatible from an architectural style. So the Secretary of the Standards do not charge this new work to be, in the same style. That is not necessarily a requirement. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and then we'll keep kind of going around the room. Let's see, next, I've got Commissioner Jacoby again.
Okay. But yeah, so when I read the standards, my understanding is you're not supposed to make it look like part of the original house, but it should reflect some architectural features of the house as part of the requirements. And this reflects the neighborhood, but not the house so much. And again, looking at this picture that's up right here, if you go by the property, and just looking at this picture, it looks like it's part of the same house. The size of the space in front of your cinder block addition to the road is not huge, but it's big enough. But even so, the ADU is going to be in such proximity to the main house that I think it would fit the standards if you had something that reflected the original house. No, it doesn't have to be brick. No, I mean, if the windows were just a little narrower to be Italianate, more style, with, again, instead of the shed roof, you had a ridge line coming and then down. It would be less imposing, I think, if you had a lower pitch roof than you had if you have this current roof. This roof, you designed the house, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Would it affect the floor plan inside if the pitch of the roof was less? Are you putting in inside cathedral ceilings? Or
Yeah, we're thinking about cathedral ceiling, but the important thing is to pick up a style and be true to that.
Right.
That is the 10-12 pitch is what farmhouse or what we call folk Victorian calls for.
Right.
So when you tweak that, then there's another problem. It's like, what is that style? I don't know.
Well,
I mean, that's my feel. That is to say, we can lower that pitch. It's not a big deal, but is that an improvement? I'm not sure.
I think, again, the original house is Italianate, but it's a simple Italianate. And all around the neighborhood, there are homes that are sort of Edwardian, but they're Edwardian vernacular, and they kind of tacked on weird, everything's kind of unique in the neighborhood, which makes it really fun. But again, this ADU, to me, is so close to the house. When I look at the site, it's so close. I think it would be much better for the neighborhood in general, as well as for your own property, if it reflected the original house better. So again, I'm still of the opinion that you could make it look less imposing if you lowered the pitch of the roof, and if you changed that shed roof to a horizontal ridge and then continued that same pitch down to the same point.
Well, the shed roof to the west has 5 feet plate height. So you cannot continue that inside because that would be unusable. So that shed roof somehow is there to really lower the western facade.
Right.
I mean, if I try to something else, that eave would go up 3 feet at the least,
Well,
so
if
that there's a usable space inside.
If you kept that eave and used the predominant pitch of your main house to go up to a ridge to connect to where the eave is on the central portion of your ADU.
Yeah, I mean, in order to put a
Does that make sense?
yeah, in order to put a hip roof, that plate height needs to go to the 8 feet at the least, so that it's usable inside. Right now, what you're seeing to the west is 5 feet. That's the whole
Right.
point of that shed roof, so that it really lowers. It's kind of like bowing to the house.
Right.
That
So
is-
that would impact the interior layout
Yeah,
on that section of the ADU.
I mean, we're already kind of compromising by, it's a bedroom. The bed wall is low, it starts from here
Right.
going up.
Right.
So that we can really make that side of the house low, and like I said, it's bowing to the
Okay.
house. I mean, we would lose that feature. And believe me, I tried.
Well, actually, I'm just looking. If you started with the roof at the same point on the western edge of your ADU, and you continued the roof pitch from the main house, it would go up more rapidly, not less rapidly, go up more rapidly and give you more space inside, and then you continue to a horizontal ridge line to the main part of the house. Do you see what I'm saying there?
So you're saying that the shed roof needs to be 812? That's the slope of the main hip in the main house.
Yeah, that would look, if it was 812, and then it came, if to reach the gable on the other portion of the ADU, you had a horizontal ridge line, that would reflect what's on the ridge line in this view of the main house,
Yeah.
and that would give you more head space, not less, inside the house.
Well,
I think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like,
sorry. I mean, that would be basically what you're saying is that this particular shed would go all the way to the,
no.
because if I do this 812, that shed is gonna go high.
If you did it 812 to the point where the current shed roof attaches to the rest of the ADU, just to that height, and then extended a horizontal roof
Like a flat
across.
roof?
I'm sorry?
Like a flat roof?
You could do a flat roof. From the front, I mean, that would appear much more compatible from the street with your house. And it would give you a little more headroom inside the house.
Unless you do a hip, what you're saying is not gonna work, and it's gonna, I mean, if I go 8 to 12 and then go flat, that would look really awkward as a style.
Well, that's
But
what you have on the main house.
No, main house has a hip roof.
If you look, but there is a ridge
Yes.
on
Main
that, and if
house-
you could copy that, I'm just saying.
Okay, that hip roof works only when you have the same plate around the house.
Right. I have a
And-
hip roof on my house too.
Yeah.
Well, I have a knee wall in my house.
And that needs to be at least 8, and it's high, in order to have space. Hip roof works that way. Otherwise, I mean, the whole idea is that how can I drop the plate height on one side so that I can bow to the house and then make that particular facade really small. And as you can see, not only height, but we kind of make a setback just to make that look much smaller. In the hip roof scenario, that doesn't work. You need to provide full plate height so that
Right.
you can start hipping.
But
So-
you're not providing a hip roof on the ADU. I'm just saying give the appearance of the similar roof to your main house from the street, because that's really the only side of that ADU that people are going to see. I'm not saying you should have a hipped roof on the ADU. I'm just saying from the street side, if you could start, you could also have a flat roof like you have, the shed roof, but just a little more steep at first to match the pitch of the house, and then the horizontal flat roof to come to the other portion of the ADU. It would, if anything, give you more headroom in the house. I think it would look more compatible with your main house, and it should work. You don't have to put a hipped roof on that.
I'm not sure.
Well,
I'm not following you.
Does
Because
that make sense?
No, actually, to me, I don't understand. To me, it seems like in order to do what you're asking for, you'd have to hip the roof, which would bring the plate height. You'd have the whole thing would be, what you have right now in the Italianate, in the original house, is you've got one ridge line where the chimney is kind of going back, and then there's
Another ridge
there's an
line
addition
on the
that
other
comes
side.
off,
Right.
or a section that comes off. Really, I guess the back maybe is the addition. I don't know. It's kind of weird with the box, but the reason it looks the way it does in the picture is that, there's a jog in the profile, so there's a jog in the roof, and you could make the addition or the new ADU have that feature, but you would have to make a hip roof in order to do that. It would be essentially taking almost the same roof that's on the main house and kind of putting it on the ADU in order to have that same look. Physically, the geometry would have to be created that way in order for it to work. Otherwise, you're doing lots of funky, really weird things to make something appear a certain way but not function that way. It would have to raise up. And the volume, I can understand it, the volume of that whole building would change pretty substantially by doing that. So I'm not following.
I'm
I'd
not
like
sure.
to get,
Another way to say it would take that shed roof and buckle it and make a horizontal portion, and then you would have a portion that could match the pitch of the main house, a little more steep. That's what I was, does that make more sense?
no. I mean, sorry,
sure.
I'm just
I
really
could
trying to
draw
picture
it
how
for
you
you,
could
but
do
I'm
this,
not
but
sure.
it just seems like it's really funky,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think being odd to try and present some sort of two-dimensional face to the street doesn't really work, right? Like, it's better, because then it becomes what the heck is going on there, right? As opposed to something that over time sort of assimilates into the fabric of this fairly eclectic neighborhood, right? And all the houses, if you walk around, the ones that you think, oh, that's a great little house. If you look at it, they're very simple, right? And the ones where you think, boy, what were they doing, right? Those are the ones where there's some kind of funky addition that slapped on and it wasn't
Right.
really well thought out. And then
Right.
over time, it looks really odd. So I know there's a whole pile of people here that want
Yeah,
to talk to.
that's
So
fine.
I think at least the essence of what you're,
Trying to understand.
yeah.
I'm not sure why it wouldn't work from the one view, because the other view would be blocked by the house.
But you're,
Sorry.
yeah.
I understand you don't want it to look false and funky. I totally agree. But there's really, you might see some of the eastern side of the ADU walking down the street, but really the only side that you can really see well is the southern side, which is why I was making the suggestion. I don't think, you're not going to see the north side because of the addition. You're not going to see the west side because of the main house.
Well, actually, it's a corner lot. West side is very exposed. And I'm just trying to understand, what's the purpose?
The purpose, to me, is, since it's such close proximity to your house, I think it should match more, just like the guidelines suggest.
Okay.
I understand the style. I mean, it's a nice-looking ADU, I think, and if you want to go with the farmhouse style, thinking of looking at the eclectic neighborhood as a whole, I think it's good. I just think that it would be better if it met the guidelines with some form of matching to the house, some kind of reflection of the house. And I was thinking if you could match the roof line somewhat, that would probably be enough. If you wanted to change the proportion of the window, the one window in the front, so it's more Italianate style, fine. I think the idea of changing the porch instead of rails to the panels like you have would also reflect your house without changing the details very much on the ADU. And then it would look like it belongs as part of the yard,
Yeah.
part of the property.
I think sometimes matching is...
We don't want to overmatch,
Yeah.
yes.
Matching can be by contrast as well. For instance, I'm next to the king. If I wear the same jewelry, I'm not matching. I'm being kind of forcing something. So sometimes that
Could you move your mic over, please?
changing your, that is not following certain details, but making that decision that this is different and that's respectful and that's the way we match. What is important is the scale and how we address the existing structure and how we highlight that, to me, is valuable. And that's the danger. That is to say, if we don't do that right, then it's going to look awkward and not to the place. I don't know. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'm going to move on to a couple more commissioners here. We've got, so Commissioner Tarek.
Okay. All right, I have two separate points. The first one I wanted to address, maybe I didn't make myself clear. I don't expect this ADU to be a copy, okay? But I do think that there should be some architectural style that's carried over. Looking at this ADU, and I get that the neighborhood is eclectic, but the way that this is structured right now, I don't think that it's reflective of either the Italianate or many of the other houses in the neighborhood. I do think that there are some smaller, easier things that you could do on this ADU to reflect either the Italianate or the other houses in the neighborhood. I lived in an 1885 brick Italianate for 20 years. My husband and I bought it, we lived there, and we restored it. And two of the things that really stand out to me that are integral to an Italianate are, I see the brackets underneath, the brackets on the roof line, okay? So something like that could be easily, okay, mimicked and put in an ADU, okay? We did that on our house. Again, the porch that you did on the front, it's a wonderful porch. And so why not just kind of mimic that with the deck that's there, right? That would not be copying, it would not be in competition or anything like that. But yet, I think it's preserving, right, the entire property and just highlighting, right, that Italianate house. And for me, that is part of when we talk about, you know, preserving a house, you're preserving the whole property. And I think that is, in my mind, that is what is important. I'm not talking about copying, you know, I'm not saying you need to put stone lintels over the windows. We did that. You don't have to do that. But you could mimic that, right, with a molded plastic that looks like stone. That would be something that would be, you know, I'm not saying you have to do that, but there's small things that you can do, then I think that then honors more of that house, that style, that time period when this house was first built. And that for me is important. It's that honoring, right? That history, not only the architecture, but the history, the time period. You know, what Longmont looked like when, you know, when this house was built. That to me is important, okay? And this is new, so whatever is new is not going to be real, and it will have some sense of contrivance, whether it's a farmhouse or Italianate or whatever. But for me, thinking about historic preservation and preservation of houses, it is that entire property, and your entire property is a time capsule in essence, right? And I think that we want to we're not going to copy it, we're not going to be frozen in time, but we need to honor that. And then, all the other houses are different too, but this is part of that difference, right? To make it eclectic. And so to kind of diminish that with this addition, I think is, for me, it's very concerning. And that's why I have reservations. Thank you.
All right, Council Rep Marsing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question for the applicant. First of all, thanks for going through this process.
Sure. Thank you.
As from an outside observer's perspective, the questions of the commission I think are really impressive, and I know the work you've put in is meaningful to you. I can see that. So, just general question: what's your goal for the ADU? Is it rented out for housing? Is it mother-in-law? What's your overall goal for the ADU in terms of why?
We're thinking rental.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay.
And quite honestly, I'm a trained architect, urban designer, and urbanist.
Yeah.
And to me, I take it seriously what this addition is going to add to the streetscape and the general feel.
Yeah.
So that's why I give a lot of thought of understanding what works and what doesn't work. I'm a believer of following some of the styles when it's appropriate, and we've done a lot of work that way. That is to say, within addition, and then probably we will be denied by following the details and style of the historic house too much. We've done that. In this particular case, what we're dealing with is so unique and complete that it's really hard to mimic anything out of that. And on top of that, you have two editions, and one of the edition is very contrasting edition. But at least 50 years old right now. There's that kind of big discussion as well. Which style are we going to follow? What if I follow what if I do this whole building with cinder blocks and follow the back building style? Where do we get that? It's like, to me, like I said, went back and forth a lot about this, but, somehow the form, the color, and the scale is the key respect to the existing house. And, it would be much easier to copy some of the brackets and then, some of the details, but I sincerely don't believe that's the way to do. That's where I am.
Oh, thank you for that.
Sure.
All right, Commissioner Habram.
Yeah, I would. I don't share some of my colleagues' reservations for the point you just made, because not only is the neighborhood eclectic, it's this property is eclectic, and so it seems like what you're adding here is not, violating all these other things when you already have this structure. He says 50 years old. That's an eyesore and is part of this anyway, even if it is further back and is, if anything, what you're doing here is obscuring that more, which is good. My question though is about, I'm just curious on the color schemes and where you went different. It's clear you were borrowing from all the different ones. Yeah, that other one you're gonna bring up would be. Yeah, so I'm curious, why you went with the different shingle color. Is that because you? And then the same thing with the Roycroft bronze green on the ADU, which is mimicked on the side bay window, which you can't see. So was that intentional to have some elements of the old house, but not copy it too much? I'm just curious on the process there.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, interestingly enough, the shingle, my wife wanted to match. And we're still in the air. If that's the recommendation, we can easily match. The color is what we're thinking. The ground floor color of the ADU is the same with the house. And that's kind of like psychological thing. There is this color goes up. And then if you put something dark, there's this Bruno Taut is an architect. He did a lot of color studies. When you put dark color to the top, the building feels lower. That is the reason why we picked something dark. And, I'm not the most color expert. My wife is much better in that. But, we can get suggestions in terms of the color. That was the idea of picking something dark to the top and then continuing the green color of the main house on the ground floor, even though the texture is going to be different because of the siding.
So I guess and I'll confess I'm new to the commission and, sort of learning these various standards, but like how different does it have to then be? Right? Because I've been hearing that it can't duplicate too much the main house or it would be rejected. And so so how different, would it be a problem if the shingles did match? Which was kind of my first instinct as well when I looked at it. Because to me, that would kind of like keep it, so it wouldn't look too odd. It would kind of make sense to be on the same property, but could still have some of that contrast. But I don't know enough of the standards as my colleagues here do yet. Here's someone else can speak to that.
Yeah, I think the intent of the standards is a lot more about scale and form than it is about detail and color, right? So it's really important that an addition, especially if something of this kind of size, does have a smaller scale in relation, right? It has to somehow offset. You want to really to set off the historic building, right? So that somebody goes, when they're walking by there, they say, "Wow, that's obviously the landmark building, right? And this other thing, whatever it is obviously not." So, and I think it's intentional, they're written intentionally to provide a fair amount of leeway. So let's say somebody wanted to make this more Italianate looking, right? If that form was a simple box, maybe with a hip roof, and all the detailing in the windows was very, very simple, and, I think like the little detail-y kind of corbels and things were not provided, right? But it was a simple form. That would be one way to solve that problem, right? It's not the only way, right? If the building is, clearly if it's some Italianate thing and it's taller than the main house, then, that's an obvious one. But I think the standards are written to allow for a fair amount of flexibility. And again, we've done projects where, the original structure was one of these little super simple Victorians, and an addition is vastly different in architectural style. And it's okay. It was okay because that was super, just really. I'm not finding the right word, but subordinate, right? Like the house just stands out as its own thing. And so I really truly believe that this is a great solution that meets the intent of the Secretary of Interior Standards. In particular, the way the roof line does lower relative to the house. It would be really difficult to get that two-story and not start feeling as tall as the home, and this really does it sort of transitions from that house over. I have absolutely no problem with the way that this has been done, and I'll say when I first looked at it, opened up, I went, oh, whoa, okay, hold on, right? It was not what I was expecting, but as I looked at it some more, and as I thought about it and went around the block and got the explanation, I thought, okay, this actually really makes a lot of sense to me. And I really passionately think it would be a horrible mistake to take a handful of Italianate elements and put it on the house. I really think that's not the right move. I think that you really have to be true to the style. If somebody came in and said we want to do this Italianate thing, but really pared down, I think there's a way to do it. But I don't think that's the only way. I think there's a lot more flexibility within the Secretary of Interior standards than maybe a lot of people think. So this has been very interesting and a great conversation. Any other comments? Commissioner Barnard, nothing? Yeah, very good. All right, so we're at a stage where we we need a motion. So the options from the packet would be, let's see, pull it up. So as written by staff, we've got an opportunity, we can approve the application as proposed. We can approve the application with conditions, including approving in part and denying in part, or defer the action based on some additional information, or deny the application. So really, and it's kind of open-ended. All right, let's see, Commissioner O'Day.
So I'm gonna maybe controversially move that we just approve it as is.
So that motion was to approve as proposed.
I second it.
All right, so that I have a motion to approve the project as proposed and seconded by Commissioner Haberman. Is there any discussion of the motion? Commissioner Barnett?
Yes, I would like to postpone this motion because I really would love to get Holly's input into this. I'm sorry she couldn't be here today. I understand that. I don't think, that a month is going to make a big difference. But her input would be very important to how I vote. And I just don't think I could vote for it without that.
Okay, we do, at this point, have a motion and a second on the floor, so that is active. Any other discussion? Commissioner Jacoby?
Well, I'm as big a proponent as anybody for trying to make it match the house more. But I agree the massing is very good, and it's definitely an improvement on the property as it now stands. And I think we also have to think of our role in the community as a preservation commission. If we are perceived as being too tightly controlling, we are going to hurt ourselves in the long run. And with all that said, it's a beautiful addition, and I like the porch. I do think it would look better if it matched the house, but I'd much rather have this than nothing done, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner comments on the motion? All right, then I'll go ahead and call for a vote. So does anybody need the motion to be repeated, or are we all clear? All right, so all those in favor of the motion to approve the application as proposed, please say aye. Aye. So I've got Commissioner O'Day, Commissioner Haberman, Chairman Lane, and Commissioner Jacoby in favor. All those opposed?
Opposed?
All right, Commissioner Terrick opposed, and abstention? Commissioner Barnett. All right, so that motion does carry and is approved. Maria, you got all that? Okay, great. All right, thank you very much for coming in. You've given this commission one of the more interesting conversations and debates on this podium we've had in a while, so good job with that.
Unique properties of the house, I guess, caused this discussion.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, I don't think. I mean, okay, now I just got to find my agenda again. Okay, following that, new business, I take it, since there's nothing on here, we don't have any new business? All right, and then prior business is also nothing on here, so, oh, okay, we have a new business, all right. Commissioner Barnett.
Yes, I followed up from the retreat, but I thought it'd be best under new business.
Okay,
I've contacted the St. Vrain Historical Society, and we now have a table, a booth reserved at the Strawberry Festival. And at the next meeting, I'll circulate a sign-up list. We still have 2 more meetings before the festival, which is May 15th and 16th. So you want to mark your calendars for that, May 15th and 16th, and you'll be asked if you can take an hour or 2 or whatever till we fill up the time.
okay, Thank you for
And
that.
there's no charge.
Is it the 15th and 16th or 16th and 17th?
16th and 17th, sorry.
Okay, 16th and 17th, okay. Okay, great. Then now we'll just move on to any other comments from HBC commissioners, if anybody's got anything they'd like to throw out to the group. No? You've already done that? Okay, great. Any comments from our city council rep? Yes? All right. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, I appreciated the conversation from the commission tonight. I think the really interesting discussion about how we, balance these different pieces. I wanted to apologize for the commission for missing the retreat. I did get the chance to watch it. Appreciated the discussion about my the prevalence of my having children. That was low. No, it was great. It was great. My wife and I got a kick out of it. No, I also just really appreciate the thoughtfulness that you're approaching these issues and these conversations, and I hope to continue to be around for as many of them as I can, and then to go advocate when your issues do come to council. So the only other thing I wanted to update you on is just an update on board appointment process, because I know that that's something that is ongoing. Tomorrow night, not tomorrow night, Tuesday night, I will not actually physically be able to be there. I'll miss my first council meeting because it's my wife's 30th birthday, but council will be approving on second reading an update to our rules of procedure, modifying how you all how the interplay between boards and commissions and council and the board appointment process changes. And I wanted to make sure that this board was aware of what the plan is, at least currently, as we've directed in those rules of procedure changes. So moving forward, it's going to work a little bit differently than it has in the past. Boards, assuming there are no further amendments tomorrow or Tuesday night, what will happen is next time you open up for applications in that process, which will happen, I think, fairly soon. We're very close. You'll see essentially the rules of procedure call for this commission to appoint a subcommittee of members who are not currently applying. So if you are not an applicant, if you are an applicant in that cycle, you cannot also sit on the subcommittee interviewing candidates. It seems like a reasonable thing. We had some issues with some other boards and commissions that we had to deal with. So that interview committee will also include, so it'll include at least 2 members of the commission, your staff liaison, and your council liaison. And you will all, that commission, that subcommittee can decide on the questions being asked, et cetera, and go from there. So you'll then conduct the interviews. The interviews will be recorded and shared with council. However, council will no longer interview applicants. So it was a lot of staff time for staff to coordinate multiple interviews, a lot of time for our applicants to come back for what seemed like an additional interview, and move forward from there. That board, the committee, I'm not explaining this well, but the committee will then score applicants. However, the one change that is different, we are asking, and the rules of procedure will specifically reflect, that you do not formally recommend candidates for appointment. So we will see scores. We will see applications that are scored. We'll get your feedback in that way. The change that, and this was talked about a lot at council because there are certainly feelings about this both ways. The idea being that essentially, and this commission certainly is not a problem in this way, but some of our more technical commissions, some of our more, some different boards, I think there was a question about creating echo chambers or boards kind of appointing themselves with less studious councils. And I think council wants to take a shot at trying to really do due diligence on our end with your input, your scoring, but not necessarily the formal cover letter that says this is absolutely the person that we think we want. We will still get your feedback through the scoring matrices that you will fill out. So we'll see, we'll be able to put the pieces together. We'll just not have the big bolded name of the formal recommendation moving forward. So that roughly is the process. I'm happy to answer questions, and that'll be the process that we move forward through starting this next round.
I turned my mic on. All right. Thank you, Councilman Marsing. Let's see, Commissioner Barnard, you have a question?
Yes, I got lost.
Yeah.
We'll appoint a subcommittee. I understand that.
Yes.
I understand the composition of the subcommittee.
Mm-hmm.
The subcommittee will score,
Yes, but not formally recommend.
not recommend. to this, to us?
To council.
So the subcommittee's going to bypass the entire,
The subcommittee can be made, it's a good question. Thank you for raising it. The subcommittee can be made up of at least two. So theoretically, if this board chose to, this commission chose to, the subcommittee could be everyone on the commission who is not currently applying. You will not bring, they don't need to be sent up the ladder, essentially, to council through the commission, is the way that it looks like it's going to work. So yes, it won't bypass the board necessarily, but it will go from the commission to council. So essentially, the scoring is going to take place at that subcommittee level and then move forward straight to council, if that makes sense. At least that's my understanding of it. That's a good clarifying
it
question.
makes sense, but I don't like it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that feedback.
Because, I mean, I've been on the subcommittees, and I think it's usually fairly formalistic with us, that the commission agrees with the subcommittee, but it may not. I think the only way around it, if that ends up being the rule, is for the commission to appoint all of us to the subcommittee. Because otherwise, I mean, you've got members here who would have absolutely no input into who, even the scoring. I mean, okay, I understand you may not want a recommendation, but, you know, I mean, I would want to be on every subcommittee.
Yeah.
Because I'd want some input into who the next, who's going to sit next to me
I appreciate that.
on the commission. Well, it's not so much sitting next to me because I might be leaving, but who I think is qualified to serve on this commission.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner. Is it all right, Mr. Chair? if I go?
So go for it.
Thank you. No, it's a good point, and it's actually a good clarifying question that I think would be an addition that I can add to the dialogue that will take place on Tuesday night to make sure that everyone is clear. I think different boards and commissions think about this differently. So we've heard feedback from different boards and commissions that they don't especially like having to recommend or go through that process. Some of them want to focus on the work that they're doing. Some of them, including another board I liaison to, the Housing and Human Services Board, their practice is just to do it with the full board, and that has been their practice for some time. So I think it's going to be a matter of you as a commission deciding if, yeah, we're going to have everybody who wants to be a part of this, a part of it. If you don't want to be a part of it or you feel comfortable, I think it's going to vary commission to commission, board to board, and potentially even on this commission member to commission member about how passionately they feel about that. What I will share is that, you know, when I was sitting on boards and commissions for the city, 2020, I think was my last year, we had no say in the process. It was essentially, that's the person that applied and that council approved. So this change, I think, reflects a desire to continue to empower boards to be a part of the process and to make sure that we're hearing your voice while trying to also ensure that council, as the appointing authority, does our due diligence, because we didn't get the chance to interview everybody under the current process. We only interviewed the recommended candidates that would come to council. That didn't seem like it was necessarily working either. So that's good feedback, though, and I will incorporate it because I do want to make sure that boards feel that they have a full understanding and at least what the goal is here. And I think the goal is to have council be the appointing authority clearly and understandably with continued board feedback. So if this commission were to decide to just have everybody who's not applying be a part of that subcommittee, under the rules you could do that, certainly. And I did just check the language on that to confirm it a bit ago. So if there are any other questions, I know it was about clear as mud, and it'll be a process. I think the thing about these is we'll try it and we can always get your feedback and say we don't like how this worked out and go back and make revisions again. So the goal was to reduce staff time as well, was one of the other goals. So.
All right. Appreciate that.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the conversation. All right. If there's nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Okay. Motion from Commissioner Barnert and seconded by Commissioner Jacoby. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.